Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, my name is Warming, and today, I'm a little sick. Today, we're going to be talking about Peter Singer and Ordinary People Are Evil, ? His paper is called Famine, Affluence, and Morality is the name of Peter Singer's paper, but the main idea is that ordinary people are evil, ? So, very quickly, his paper is long. My man here, Jeffrey Kaplan, goes over it in 30 minutes, but we're actually only going to watch the first 10 minutes with you today, and you can choose if you want to watch the rest of this, but today, just so he explains it summarizedly in 10 minutes, so we're going to watch it and then talk about it. Alright, let's go.
It's a very radical conclusion, and the problem is it's very hard to see what's wrong with the argument. The argument seems like a good one, and it has seemed that way to everyone who read this paper since 1972. Today we're talking about an absolutely revolutionary paper published by a philosopher named Peter Singer in 1972. The name of the paper is Famine, Affluence, and Morality. And the basic idea is that the moral stance that you have, your attitude towards your moral obligations, and the things that you may or may not do in your life, and the attitude that all of your friends and all of your relatives have, the general moral outlook that everyone around you has, is deeply and profoundly wrong. And the crazy thing about this paper is that, on the surface at least, it's very persuasive. Singer seems to be right. It seems to be, once you go through the argument that he lays out, it seems to be that we need to completely rework our entire society. And more specifically, forget about society for a minute, you need to completely rework your life if your life is going to be a moral one. And sort of what makes the paper so radical is that I can say all of these things, that the thesis of the paper is that you need to completely rework your life without knowing anything about you. I know virtually nothing about your life and your moral outlook and your values and the kinds of things that you do on a day-to-day basis. I can basically make some assumptions about my audience, general assumptions. You live in a broadly capitalistic society, let's assume. There are government regulations and that sort of thing. And you live sometime in the beginning-ish of the 21st century. That's basically enough. If that's true of you, then Singer thinks that your whole life needs to be reworked if you're going to live in a morally acceptable way. Okay, if we're going to understand this argument, then we need one distinction to start out. This is a technical distinction, but there's really only one technical term. Here you go. We're talking about the distinction between the supererogatory and the obligatory. Imagine this. You're getting together with a group of friends or coworkers or something like that, and you decide, you know what, this is a pretty early gathering. It's a pretty early meeting. And so wouldn't it be nice if I went and got everyone some coffee and danishes? Because some people are going to be rushing out of their house and they're not going to have time to eat breakfast. And so when everyone shows up, surprise, surprise, there is some coffee and donuts and treats or whatever that you brought for everyone and you paid for. And you're just giving it to them and you say, hey guys, I brought these for you. I want you to have them. That action is supererogatory. It's extra. It's super. You didn't have to do it, but it was a really nice thing to do. It was an extra thing that you did, and it was a good thing to do. It was not obligatory. Something is obligatory if you have to do it, right? So if someone is assigned in the group to bring coffee and breakfast to every early morning meeting, and you signed up, you promised, you committed to bringing coffee and breakfast on that day, well then bringing coffee and breakfast is obligatory. And of course it would be nice if everyone thanked you for bringing those things, even if you agreed or promised to do it, it wasn't extra. It was something you had to do. You had committed to it. You were obliged to do it. One more example just to bring out this distinction. And this example may date this video. It may give you a sense of when I'm making this video. But anyway, at the time of the recording of this video, there's something going on in supermarkets where when you check out in the supermarket and you're paying for your groceries or whatever, there's some of the payment is obligatory, right? You have to pay for the things that you are buying. But then there's this extra payment. They say when you're checking out, they're like, would you like to donate $1 to, and then they name some charity. Would you like to add $1 to your bill here at the supermarket? That additional payment, that's extra. You don't have to do it. It's up to you. It's supererogatory. If you do it, it's good. That's a nice thing that you did, right? But you didn't have to. Supererogatory. That's what that word means. Okay, here's the claim of this paper. The claim is that there are these organizations that exist in the world now in 1972, says Singer, right? And these organizations like Oxfam, right, and UNICEF, these are organizations that take money from people who live in relatively wealthy places on the planet, and they take that money and they use it to do amazing things for people who are suffering under things like famines, right? If there's a famine in some place in the world, there's not enough food, and people are literally starving to death. They are dying because they don't have enough food. So, someone donates a little bit of money, and these organizations take that money, and a very high percentage of that money, with a great deal of efficiency, gets transported to this other place on the planet where there's a famine, and literal people's lives are saved. Normally, we, you and I, and all of your relatives and all of your friends, everyone in our society, in our broader society, we think of these sorts of acts, giving charity in this way, giving money to Oxfam or UNICEF or whatever, we think of these things as supererogatory. Giving to charity is supererogatory. It's nice, it's good, but you don't have to do it. If on any given occasion you don't do it, you're not a bad person. It's not like you failed to live up to some obligation that you had. Singer says, no. Here's an argument that proves, Singer thinks, that giving to charity, giving extra money to famine relief, if you're affluent, if you have extra money, is something that you must do. You must do it in the same way that you must not murder, or you must catch someone if they're falling and you can just reach out your arms and catch them and save them. You must do it. That's the thesis. Okay, so Singer has an argument for this thesis, an argument for this conclusion, but we're going to get to the argument in 1 minute. First, let's just skip to the end of the paper and see his statement of that conclusion. Here's what he says. Here's what Singer says. Because giving money is regarded as an act of charity, it is not thought that there is anything wrong with not giving. The charitable man, or if we want, because this was written in 1972, we can say the charitable person. The charitable person may be praised, but the person who is not charitable is not condemned. People do not feel in any way ashamed or guilty about spending money on new clothes or a new car instead of giving it to famine relief. Indeed, the alternative does not occur to them. What's the alternative? The alternative is not getting those new clothes and not getting that new car, and instead taking that money that you would have spent on new clothes and just, wearing your old clothes and taking that money and giving it to an organization that will help people, that will save people who are dying of famine, right? That possibility, the possibility of not spending money on luxuries, does not occur to most people or to virtually anyone. This way of looking at the matter cannot be justified. This way of looking at the matter is the way that we all look at the matter. That is, we think that giving money to famine relief is supererogatory. It's nice. It's an extra thing. That cannot be justified. The only thing, according to Singer, that can be justified, and we're going to get to the argument for this conclusion, the only thing that can be justified is the way of thinking where you think that giving to famine relief instead of buying new clothes or a new car or whatever, giving to famine relief is obligatory. That's the only way of thinking that can be justified. the upshot or the punchline is this: if you don't give to famine relief, Singer thinks, you've done something wrong. You've done something evil, bad. Every time you buy new clothes that you don't absolutely need, or you buy a new car when you could just drive your old car, or you buy a cup of coffee that someone else made for you because it's more convenient for them to make it for you and it tastes a little better than if you were to make it at home. Every time you do any of those things, you're doing something wrong. You're doing something bad. We don't think this way. No one in our society, not in 1972, and even though this is a super famous paper, you've maybe never heard of it, and so it didn't seep into the whole society. Even now, right, people don't think that buying new clothes or buying a cup of coffee from a coffee shop is a bad thing to do, an evil thing to do, a wrong thing to do. But Singer thinks that it is. And here's his argument for that conclusion.
So look, you can go and I'm gonna link the video at the end of this as well as at this point. But you know, just you know, we watched it together. This is just the opening, so go ahead and go watch the rest of it. But you know, the whole point of this video was to try to share this with as many people as possible, because a lot of people don't want to sit down and watch a 30-minute video, and this gives the whole idea of it in like around 10 minutes. This will probably end up being like 12 or something. But it's insane. It's, you know, I never thought about it that way, and it's like the companies he listed that help people, like Oxfam. You know, I've never heard of those. I need to give money. I need to make money so I can give money. It's just like, it's a crazy concept that maybe every time that you go to Waffle House, or that every time you know, are kind of like pigging out, bro, you know, that, you know, truly you're hurting someone. It's like crazy to think about the world like that. But I'm gonna take the L for humanity along with anyone else that wants to. And I think living like this is going to be preferable for a lot of people. You know, I can't wait to see what I can do for others in the next 10 years and the rest of my life. I can't wait to see what I can do in just 1 year with this information. I feel guilty. I feel ashamed, you know, that something so logical didn't come across to me earlier. I'm so thankful for Peter Singer and for Jeffrey Kaplan and for God, you know, making this available to me today. You know, I'm so thankful for you guys as well. I think, you know, this is a greater concept, which, you know, in terms of y'all, you know, I love you guys. But we kind of have to share, like, how we feel about the universe. And it's so crazy, but this one of my greatest feelings, you know, in the terms of how we look at society. Like, a majority of society doesn't want to help society in this society. So even if the minority can change their mind, we can still make a huge impact. So I love you guys. I hope you're having a great day. Go check out the rest of his video. Maybe even check out Peter Singer's paper.
Oh, wow, he did